Hey everyone, Anthony Venuti here with InTouch Mortgage Solutions. It's Friday, Finance Fridays, and on this episode, we're going to be talking about inventory levels and why are they so low and what's causing it. Stay tuned, you don't want to miss it. Why are inventory levels so low in Canada? What is actually driving these lower inventory numbers? And the simple answer is, well, we don't really know, but there are some different ways to consider or different ways to look at what is actually happening right here in Canada. So, in this episode, I want to take an opportunity to go over some of the key points that we feel are actually driving some of these lower inventory levels. And I think there's a couple things in there that you might be surprised that I threw into the video. So I want to start off by talking about the central government, obviously the Liberal government right now, let's be honest, the federal government, the provincial, and obviously the municipal. Now, whether you're left or right, it shouldn't really matter. I do think that the election promises by the current administration have failed to actually achieve any measurable or quantifiable affordable housing. And this is something that's very important as a Canadian who votes in an election to see exactly what the promises are by the current administration or by the administration that you're voting in. And this is something that many Canadians are actually very sensitive about because when the central government sort of implies that they're going to be bringing in all these new to Canada individuals, which we need as a country, obviously there's no contest there. But the question is the steps that were taken in order to ensure that they can properly house the new individuals that are arriving without distorting or causing any discomfort to the existing inhabitants in Canada. So what that means is the supply constraints, right? What is happening? Canada is amongst one of the major countries, one of the G7, whichever way you want to position it. We should be at the top of timeframes when it comes to approving construction projects, getting them through the door, removing this red tape. And the longer it takes a project to get approved, well, the longer it takes a builder to build, the longer it takes inventory to hit the market. So at the federal level, it is a very big problem. Then you get to the provincial and municipal levels. And obviously, we've heard from the Ford government here in Ontario that they planned to open up some of this green belt, this sanctioned land, this conservatory land, to allow more building. And obviously, they're getting some pushback from environmentalists, rightfully so, as there are certain lands that just cannot be built on, and this replacement thing. But that's for another video. Looking at the more municipal level, obviously we've seen Toronto move the needle a little bit when it comes to these multi-unit dwellings. So basically shifting the focus from a single-family home, the zoning, to a multi-residential. Which allows the person on that particular parcel of land to do a few things. They can either retrofit their home, make it a duplex, a triplex, I believe up to a fourplex. I believe that is the case. Obviously, there's been some other creative ways that Toronto's allowed for laneway housing and very dense building around the subway and public transit. So obviously, we've seen these measures coming into play. Obviously, I have my reservations on how this multi-residential change, this very huge change to Toronto, is going to play out. I think it's going to take a lot of time for that to be digested by homeowners and investors and potential developers and builders, as the cost to build these projects, to retrofit these homes, to allow more families to live in one specific location, are required. Obviously, you still need permits and zoning and all these inspections, so on and so forth. So there's obviously going to be some complications there. The turnaround to get these projects and the financing, obviously, if you're a builder, it's one thing. If you're an individual trying to look for other streams of revenue and converting that into a multi-residential unit, well, the numbers just have to make sense. You're not just going to inject hundreds of thousands of dollars into trying to potentially retrofit that home if it's not going to actually generate a positive cash flow. And if it doesn't, well, how long will it take to generate, even though rents are definitely elevated right now? And this is hopefully going to help alleviate some of the pressures when it comes to these lower inventories, like inventories not only for purchasing homes, but also to find adequate rental space at an affordable price. So you have this weighing balance between actually creating inventory because we have low inventory, and then creating affordable inventory for those who don't have the means to be paying up towards of $3,000 a month for a two-bedroom unit in Toronto. So obviously, there's a lot of pressure on the governments to step up their game. A little too soon, too late. Obviously, a lot of pressure being now put on them, but they missed the mark. This is going to take years to fix. And the longer they wait, the slower home starts and moving into builders, the lower the home starts are, especially because of interest rates and higher cost of wages and material, something we've talked about on the channel before. Well, builders have to be confident in building homes. And what are they going to build? Obviously, they're not going to be building $2.6 million homes in Toronto because the amount of people that may be eligible or qualified to purchase those homes are far and few in between, as opposed to building high density condos at a barrier or a cheaper barrier to entry than it is to buy a townhouse. And when we speak about those particular styles of homes, well, we refer to what's called the missing middle. And the missing middle is exactly that. You have a whole bunch of high-rise condominiums. If you drive through downtown Toronto, obviously you see all these skyscrapers to the eye can see, right? You can't even see through some of them. But then you have, these single-family homes, and what's happening in the middle, and not just in geographical, but what's missing is those duplexes, those triplexes, those fourplexes, those multifamily units, those towns and semis. And this is something, at least in Ontario, we're seeing in the outskirts of the GTA, not necessarily in Toronto, but in Vaughan, we're starting to see more production in this missing middle type of homes. But yet the price point for these homes are very expensive. So yes, you are going to put inventory into the market, and they're saying, yeah, well, Ant, they're going to start building, and we need 3.5 million new homes by 2030, and the government's promised all these new homes that are going to be built, but they're just not happening at the right pace. And as immigration continues to roll in, unless that changes, even though we're seeing those numbers drop off a little bit, the inventory levels are going to remain reduced. So you have government intervention, obviously red tape bureaucracy, something that's a lot of conversation around. Then you have builders who might be building, but maybe not building the exact product that people need. Remember, a lot of these individuals, a lot of families over the past few years have sort of tried to expand their family. They're having kids. You can't really house a family in a one-bedroom condo, even if you have a den. Obviously, at certain times and points, you will need to move up to the next leg, whether it be a two-bedroom or a townhouse. So even that move up transition is causing a lot of problems. Well, when you talk about moving up, right? Well, generally when a move up buyer does a transaction, they generally put their existing home into the buyer pool and they purchase something. So there's a deposit and a return, right? So this is a balanced transaction, something we've talked about on the channel before. But what's happening right now, obviously, is these new individuals, those millennials who are entering the buying age for homes, who can obviously qualify, well, they're pulling from that existing lower inventory, and there's just not being replaced fast enough. Now, why is that the case? Well, why are we not seeing all these homes hit the market? And wasn't there this huge thing with defaults and these clients that couldn't pay their mortgages, these private mortgages and so on and so forth? Well, anecdotally, we haven't seen those hit the market yet. And if you're aware, obviously you understand that the banks, under the guidance of the federal government, the budget that we talked about, where they're implementing all these language to help Canadians, these banks must be helping Canadians, whether it means extending their amortizations or allowing negative amortizations, allowing Canadians to get further down the rabbit hole when it comes to their principal balances on their mortgages, not covering the interest portion or just barely covering the interest portion of that mortgage. Obviously, this is a big problem, right? In any normal circumstance, if there was no intervention, well, these people would be in a position that they would either have to consider selling or refinancing, restructuring, or downsizing. Obviously, this would be a different scenario, but with this particular move by the banks, well, it's sort of kicking the can down the road. So this is also contributing to lower inventories. Not to mention, and here's sort of the one that I actually got a little bit shocked by was, and something we've talked to a lot of clients was about baby boomers. Now, baby boomers over the past few years, obviously they're the biggest cohort. They have amassed a lot of wealth. They were able to purchase homes at a much cheaper price and obviously had maybe more favorable conditions, amassed a lot of wealth in the stock market if they, budgeted their finances correctly. Not all are in the same category, but most of them are. And most of them may have no mortgage at all. Maybe they have some lines of credits, but they've helped their children buy homes. That was something we've talked about over the last few years, where we saw these baby boomers, the bank of mom and dad, helping kids and their families purchase a home. And this obviously put an extreme amount of pressure on the housing market and young buyers. It was pricing people out because they were not able to compete against firm offers or these huge amounts of down payments. But obviously, why is this important? Why are baby boomers even in the mix in lower inventories? Well, I found it interesting that, talking to a lot of them, actually going through some of the conversations, some of our clients, a lot of them are actually not selling their existing homes. Maybe they're moving up or they're moving down. Maybe they're going from a larger home into a condo as they're empty nesters, but they're actually not unloading their homes. They're keeping that home as a generational home, maybe for their children, for their future grandchildren. And it really got me thinking about, well, if we don't see these individuals who technically, that's how the market works. You build your home, it's tax-free, you can sell it, helps you retire. Well, if you built up a lot of wealth, this generational wealth that we've talked about, they're actually able to keep those homes. Maybe they're able to rent them out because obviously rents are extremely high right now. And until maybe their children move into it or their grandchildren are able to move into it, well, they are able to collect a little bit more additional revenue, that a little bit of extra cash, that passive income through renting that property out. And this is really important to consider, right? So we have to look at people's financial situations. Baby boomers also have the highest amount, 55 or over. Speaking in percentage wise, they are the ones that own a few properties. So if they are able to purchase or stay in their home or keep their existing home, well, that's definitely going to have a impact on inventory levels. Now, I want to know what you think about the inventory levels. Did I miss something? Is there something that I didn't discuss in this video? Let us know in the comment section below what you think is really driving these lower inventory numbers. I want to hear from you. But if you do appreciate the content that we are producing here on our Finance Fridays episodes, we kindly invite you to make sure you're subscribed to the channel, number one. And number two, make sure you hit the like button, leave a comment below. And don't forget to share this video if you found something interesting. I'm sure many Canadians like yourselves like this type of content, especially if they're looking to buy a home. But we'll leave the video here, wishing everyone a wonderful Friday and even better weekend ahead. Thanks for watching, thanks for clicking, and we'll see you next time.